Our media follows the general conventions of a popular modern-day thriller film. We used a series of non-diegetic sounds to enhance the tense atmosphere the film was made to set. The technique is used in many modern-day thriller films and is used to fully involve the audience and make them feel as if they are involved in the danger. An example of the use of tense music is in Aislinn Walsh's 2015 An Inspector Calls, when protagonist Eva Smith commits suicide by drinking bleach. Solemn, non-diegetic music is used to further impact the audience emotionally as they learn of the innocent young protagonist slowly dying. We used serious non-diegetic music when introducing the inspector as he walks towards and enters the house. Music is used in the thriller films when introducing characters to indicate to the audience whether or not the character is a protagonist or antagonist. Moreover, we use consistently increasing heartbeat to raise the tension within the scene when the inspector is threatened by a drug cartel with a gun. The non-diegetic heartbeat raises to 175 beats per minute and the screen dips to black as the gunshot sounds. This symbolises the end of the inspector's life and the film. We set our film location in a derelict rural area named Birdbrook. It complements the idea of the film of being drug dealers. Using this location allows us to follow common conventions of a thriller film, as a derelict abandoned building is a common place for the business to be carried out. The house is also surrounded by an eerie hollow room tone with absolute silence surrounding the house for more than a square mile. This also pairs with the setting of a dark, subtle coloured building that is untouched and is an ideal place to host a drug pen. An example of a thriller film that utilises dark colours to prove a series and of destructive tone is Alfonso Cuarón's 2006 sci-fi thriller film Children of Men, which is set in a dystopian London in 2027. We decided to base our thriller film's time period as 2002 due to the characters' costumes and props. This removes any creative boundaries we may encounter if we had based it in early 20th century or the present day. This then allowed us to use modern props as they are easily accessible and are not a safety precaution. Throughout the filming process, we used various shots such as tracking shots as the camera movement makes the audience feel as if they are physically following the character and watching them. We kept the shots as either mid or long shots as it allows the audience to absorb the setting and how it works with the narrative. Also, the audience can have a better view of the character's costume, body language and their positioning in the scene, which provides the audience with more of an understanding of the story, setting and scene. Mise-en-scène within our film is fairly basic. Inside the house there are no counter items that draw attention away from the character, other than a GoPro, which was not used as a final decision by the whole group. Apart from the camera, which the inspector discovers, the planks of wood help remove the empty impressions of the scene. However, the dark and dreary colours of the house help to provide a serious atmosphere of the thriller film narrative, as grey and brown are connotations of dystopian settings. We chose props that match common conventions of thriller films, such as guns and blades. The inspector contradicted the common stereotype by carrying a long blade, which indicates some form of role reversal, as a cartel would either have, but mainly, have either a gun or a blade that is kept underneath their jacket. We decided to have the inspector wield the knife, as we believed it made the inspector look more menacing, but a torch is stereotypically involved with inspectors or police officers in general. All characters wear formal clothing that is a common convention in crime-themed thriller films such as Reservoir Dogs, where the gangsters wear suits. This represents the fraudulent lifestyle. This is also seen in The Purge, as the polite leader and many other characters, villains, wear such suits to represent their social status and their lifestyle. In our thriller film, there are only 3 characters that have no allocated name who will follow typical codes and conventions of a crime-themed thriller film, as they challenge the authority of the inspector and challenge the inspector's life without any visible outcome of what happens to keep the audience on the edge of their seats. All 3 characters wear formal clothing to further comply with codes and conventions of crime-themed thriller films. We followed Strauss's binary opposites theory when making the characters, as the theory is widely used in thriller films. We have protagonists, the inspector, and against antagonists, criminals, which is a prime example of the use of the theory. Our media product would mainly appeal to teenagers and young adults because of the theme of the film. Most crime-themed thrillers are targeted to older teenagers or unacceptable for younger audiences to watch these thrillers, as they may be indoctrinated into committing violent acts due to glamorization of weaponry. As our main theme is drugs, we checked to see what age rating this would fall under, and we made sure that it did not include anything which may breach the 15 age rating. This ensures that our target audience is within range of age rating and are capable of viewing our media product. We have attracted our target audience by introducing the main conventions that will be used, as this makes our thriller film introduction more successful. During the construction of our thriller film, we have learnt lots about technology we use to make clips into a trailer. Firstly, we used a Canon DSLR 600D to film all the clips featured in the film, and we learned through trial and improvement how different camera angles and heights can drastically change the overall atmosphere to the film. Furthermore, we used Adobe Premiere Pro to combine our clips and edit them so we would create a short film which would eventually become our final piece. We learnt lots about the process of editing as we experiment with colour contrasts, saturations, speed durations and transitions to find out what works best with our film. To aid us in our editing process, we used Apple Macs, as their screens are renowned for being of high quality, which allows us to see any visual defects when we edit the thriller film. We learnt how to effectively use Mac and Premiere Pro to create short film and edit using extremely technological software. We've learnt a lot about camera shots and how to edit footage when creating films, which has aided us to be able to make a moderately smooth introduction to a thriller film. However, there are a few shots that we used in a preliminary task that we did not decide to use in our final thriller film, as it is a point of view shot and seemed to enable the audience from being able to absorb the mise-en-scène, and it hindered the ability for us to make it seem as if the audience is in the thriller film. However, we agreed to use shots over the shoulder and match in action, and so this made the film seem more dynamic as the audience and the narrative as a third-person entity. Our music in the preliminary task was light-hearted and cheerful to complement the instant theme, but we would not condone the use of genre of music in our thriller film unless we were willing to contradict the codes and conventions of typical thriller films. Instead, we used tense music to follow common codes and conventions of thriller films, and to complement the atmosphere of our narrative. Mise-en-scène was also vastly different in our thriller film in comparison to our preliminary task, as our preliminary featured casual clothing and no props, whereas our thriller film featured more formal clothing and have no specific props related to the genre of the thriller film. The music also complemented the character's dark background, which allowed us to create a character that would fit in with the mise-en-scène and not change the tone or sensation that followed the film. Within the preliminary task, we were able to set a storyline that was suitable for all of the characters when the casting and would be able to suit the school environment, which allowed us to record within the school grounds. However, since we used a different genre, we were unable to use the idea of a football match as the storyline. We had to adapt, and doing the preliminary task allowed us to find another place that we were able to use to record, and would not hinder our abilities to get good footage that would allow us to create an introduction to a thriller film. The setting we used was actually found whilst looking online for things we could use during our preliminary task, and we took this as an opportunity as it seemed like a good place for drug cartels to conduct business, which is what sparked the storyline for our thriller film.